When life hits you with moments that freeze your mind, when you sit in silence and your thoughts begin to multiply like shadows in a dark room, when every small decision feels like a mountain you must climb, this is the moment when overthinking slowly drains your strength. Everyone has faced that moment. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about something that happened years ago, or worrying about something that might happen tomorrow. Your chest feels tight, your breath becomes shallow, and your heart starts whispering, "What if? What if? What if?" And slowly, without noticing, you lose the present moment. You lose peace. You lose yourself. The Stoics understood this exact moment. They lived in a world full of war, uncertainty, loss, betrayal, and chaos. Yet they found a way to stay calm, not because life was easy, but because they trained their minds to stay steady. They learned how to stop the storm before it destroyed them. And today, you will learn how to do the same. Imagine this scene for a moment. You are pacing in your room. Something happened, a conversation you regret, a decision you fear, an upcoming challenge that makes your stomach twist. You feel trapped inside your mind. You want to escape, but your thoughts keep chasing you. You sit down and whisper to yourself, "Why am I doing this? Why can't I just stop thinking?" And in that moment, imagine a Stoic mentor sitting across from you, calm, firm, wise. He looks directly into your eyes and says, "You're not suffering from the situation. You are suffering from your judgment of it." That is where your transformation begins. The first Stoic way to stop overthinking begins with understanding what you can actually control. Most of your overthinking comes from things you can't change, someone's opinion, the past, the outcome you fear. The Stoics say there are two boxes in your life: what you control and what you don't. Put energy only into the first box, and your mind becomes light. Put energy into the second, and your mind becomes heavy. Think of the times you stayed awake at night thinking about what someone said. You replayed the sentence again and again. You imagined new versions of the conversation. You built stories in your mind that never happened. The Stoics say this is the mind trying to control the uncontrollable. And the moment you remind yourself, "This is not in my control," the burden starts to fall away. Picture the Stoic mentor leaning forward and saying, "Your power lies only in your actions, not in your imagination." Once you begin separating your thoughts into these two categories, you start breathing again. You stop drowning. You stop fighting with shadows. You stop giving power to things that do not belong to you. The second Stoic way is learning to anchor yourself in the present moment. Overthinking is nothing but the mind running either into the past or the future. Marcus Aurelius said, "The present moment is all we ever lose." When you overthink, you abandon the present. You abandon yourself. Imagine you're sitting at a desk, worried about something that might happen tomorrow. Your body is in the present, but your mind is traveling into the future, searching for danger. It's like living two lives at once and losing both. The Stoics teach us to return to this moment, because this moment is all we truly have. Imagine someone telling you gently, "Come back. Right here, right now. This moment is safe. Take a breath. Look around. Feel your heart beat." This simple act, returning to the present, breaks the cycle of overthinking, like a blade cutting through a rope. The third Stoic way is accepting imperfection. A lot of overthinking comes from trying to make everything perfect. Perfect decisions, perfect words, perfect results. But the Stoics remind us, nothing in nature is perfect. No tree grows in a perfectly straight line. No river flows in a perfectly smooth path. No life is lived without mistakes. Overthinking tries to protect you from error, but in reality it keeps you stuck. Imagine looking at yourself in a mirror and saying, "I don't need perfection. I need progress." Every great person in history made decisions without knowing the outcome. They acted with courage, not perfection. When you accept that life will always have uncertainty, you start to move forward. And with movement comes clarity. With clarity comes peace. The fourth Stoic way is learning to observe your thoughts instead of engaging with them. Most people think their thoughts are commands, but Stoics saw thoughts as visitors, some helpful, some harmful. You do not have to obey every thought. You do not have to believe every thought. You do not have to fight every thought. You can simply let them pass. Imagine a river in front of you. Each thought is a leaf floating by. Some leaves are big, some are small, some are dark, some are light. You are not the leaf. You are the observer. You watch the leaf pass. You don't hold it. You don't argue with it. You don't try to push it away. You just let it float. Your mind becomes quiet when you stop wrestling with every thought that appears. You start saying, "This is just a thought, not a fact." This single realization can give you more peace than anything else. The fifth Stoic way is embracing voluntary challenges. The Stoics believed that the mind grows weak when life is too comfortable. When you constantly seek comfort, your mind begins to panic at the smallest discomfort. Overthinking becomes your default response because your mind has no strength to face difficulty. Imagine deliberately taking small challenges, cold showers, waking up early, doing one difficult task each day. These small acts build mental armor. They teach your mind that discomfort is survivable. They teach your mind that fear does not need to control you. And slowly your mind stops reacting with panic. Instead, it reacts with calm. Imagine someone telling you confidently, if you train your mind in small hardships, it will not collapse in big ones. This is how the Stoics built unshakable resilience. Now you begin to feel something shifting inside you. A sense of control, a sense of presence, a sense of steadiness. The storm inside your mind begins to weaken. But this is only the beginning. There are still deeper lessons ahead. Lessons that take you from merely managing your thoughts to mastering them. The sixth Stoic way to stop overthinking is creating space between stimulus and response. Humans react quickly, emotionally, impulsively. Someone says something rude, and your mind instantly starts replaying it. Someone makes a mistake, and your mind jumps to anger. Your mind begins building entire stories in seconds. But the Stoics say, slow down. There is a small moment, a gap between what happens and how you choose to respond. If you expand that gap, you gain freedom. Imagine someone criticizes you. The old instinct is to immediately defend yourself or overthink what they meant. But the Stoic way is different. You pause, you breathe. You tell yourself, I will choose my response, not react automatically. This pause is powerful. It breaks the automatic chain of overthinking. It gives you time to examine the situation calmly. It gives you perspective. And in that pause, you realize that not every situation deserves your emotional energy. The seventh Stoic way is reminding yourself of the worst case scenario and accepting it. Most people overthink because they fear what could go wrong. They imagine the worst, but they never confront it. The Stoics say the best way to remove fear is to face it mentally. Ask yourself, what is the worst that can realistically happen? And then ask, can I handle it? Most of the time, the answer is yes. The situation might be uncomfortable, but not fatal. It might cause stress, but not destruction. And once your mind accepts the worst, everything else becomes lighter. Imagine saying to yourself, even if the worst happens, I will still stand. I will still adapt. I will still live. This breaks the fear cycle that fuels overthinking. The eighth Stoic way is focusing on your daily actions instead of distant outcomes. A lot of overthinking comes from imagining the future, success, failure, what people will say, what might go wrong. But the Stoics believed that the future is built by today's actions, not by today's worries. Imagine you're starting a new project. Your mind races with fear. What if I fail? What if nobody supports me? What if I'm not ready? A Stoic response would be, what can I do today? Not tomorrow, not next month, not after everything is perfect. Today. When you shrink your world to the size of one day, overthinking loses its power. One day is manageable. One action is manageable. One step is manageable. You stop climbing the whole mountain in your mind. You climb one step, then another, and eventually you reach the top without realizing it. The ninth Stoic way is transforming obstacles into opportunities. Overthinking often comes from seeing problems as threats instead of teachers. But the Stoics believed that every obstacle carries a hidden benefit, a lesson, a new skill, a chance to grow. Imagine something goes wrong today. You lose a job, you fight with someone you care about, your plans fall apart. The natural response is stress, panic, overthinking. But the Stoic response is different. You ask, how is this helping me grow? What strength is this situation trying to teach me? What wisdom is hidden inside this difficulty? This mindset transforms fear into focus, pain into power, confusion into clarity. Instead of drowning in thoughts, you rise above them. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, how can this shape me? And finally, the 10th Stoic way to stop overthinking is understanding the shortness of life. The Stoics emphasize the idea of memento mori, remembering that life is temporary. This is not meant to make you sad. It is meant to free you. When you truly understand how short life is, you stop wasting time on unnecessary thoughts. You stop giving energy to worries that won't matter in a year or even a week. Imagine someone telling you quietly, life is too short to live inside your mind. Step into the world. Step into your day. Step into your life. Suddenly your worries feel small. Your fears feel less powerful. Every moment becomes precious. Every breath becomes meaningful. You begin to live with intention instead of anxiety. Now imagine going back to the version of yourself who was sitting alone, lost in thoughts, overwhelmed by the mind's noise. You sit beside that version of yourself and say gently, you don't need to fight your thoughts. You need to guide them. You don't need to control everything. You need to control yourself. You don't need perfect clarity. You just need courage. And slowly the storm begins to calm. You feel lighter, stronger, steadier, not because your life became easier, but because your mind became wiser. You start acting instead of reacting. You start thinking clearly instead of endlessly. You start living intentionally instead of anxiously. And this transformation, this quiet, powerful transformation, is what Stoicism is all about. It doesn't remove problems from your life. It removes the confusion around them. It doesn't erase fear. It gives you the strength to walk through it. It doesn't silence your thoughts. It teaches you how to master them. By practicing these 10 Stoic ways, you reclaim control of your mind. You stop overthinking not through force, but through understanding. You learn to separate what matters from what doesn't. You learn to act with clarity instead of hesitation. And slowly, you begin to experience a level of peace you may have never felt before. The truth is this: you are stronger than your worries. You are greater than your fears. You are bigger than your thoughts.